depending on whether the laundry was dry by the time I came back from exercise. If it wasn't dry yet, I would move this pillow over and try to get him a short nap before activities that afternoon.
Okay. So, do you know which pillow was actually used on you, or you just know it's one of these pillows?
Oh, well, I'm pretty certain that it had a pillowcase on it.
Okay.
So it was probably one like that.
Okay. Let me show you State's Exhibit number 28 for Bartell. And what this is showing is that door that's going out to the rose bush that didn't make it through the winter. Okay? And it's just showing that when the police were there, the door was unlocked at the time, which is unusual for the way you run your house.
That would surprise me.
Okay. State's Exhibit number 29 for Bartell. This is standing on your patio looking out, and that rose bush should be right to the left of the photographer.
That's correct.
And then if you went a little bit further out and maybe stood on just past the bushes there, is this what else you would see in that back area on State's Exhibit 30?
Yes, you're right.
Now we get to the hospital, and
emergency room.
And State's Exhibit number 31 for Bartell. Do you recognize who's in this picture?
Yes.
And who's in this picture?
That's a picture of me in the emergency room.
All right, and there's a green, what would we call it?
Oh,
smock or
that's
whatever.
one of those lovely ones they put on you when you...
That's a hospital gown.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
And because they were having to work on you, to get you there, so that's the gown that they gave you.
Once I got to the emergency room, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 32 for Bartell. Is that a close-up of your face?
Yes, it shows how my nose was all smashed and how on my right cheek, the effects of having all that pressure on there, and I don't know that it's gone away yet because it takes quite a while to heal.
So it's kind of a red, it looks sort of like a light abrasion, but it's a discoloration to your face that you didn't have prior to this.
That's correct.
Your face looks more like it does on the left-hand side prior to that. Okay.
In case you wondered, my dermatologist said those are wisdom spots.
I have a lot of them myself. Yes.
We're
not as many.
again.
Yes. State's Exhibit number 33. This is a close-up of your chin, also showing, and your cheek, showing some of those red marks.
Yes.
Okay. State's Exhibit number 34. This is the right side of your face, a little bit closer up, showing those marks. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then they focused in on your nose on State's Exhibit number 35.
Yes.
And the cheeks.
Deep bruise there.
Okay. State's Exhibit number 36. Someone is pulling back your eyes to show your eyeballs. Correct? Those are your eyeballs.
I would say so.
All right. State's Exhibit number 37 for Bartell. There he's focusing on your left eyeball.
I think they did do them. Well, you didn't ask me about anything on my eyes.
Okay. State's Exhibit number 38 for Bartell. Now you're pulling down the lower parts of your eyes to show the under parts of your eyeballs. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then they're showing in State's Exhibit number 39, this is your eyes more closed, but showing the inside of the eyelids, at least of your left eye. Correct?
Lovely. Yes.
Okay. These aren't the most flattering of pictures, I would admit, but nonetheless, they were taken. We're just going to get through them.
I was the person they were photographing.
State's number 40, your eyes again, correct?
Yes.
Now, State's Exhibit number 41 shows to be taken a couple of days later, maybe, but we can still see those abrasions on your face. Is that right?
Nose and my right cheek.
Okay. Stacy number 42 for Bartell, they've kind of focused in, got a little bit closer. Is that correct?
Yes,
Stacy number 43 for Bartell, we're back at the hospital from this day, and that's your left hand. Is that right?
yes, it is.
And it's missing its ring that was originally on there. Is that right?
The engagement ring and the wedding
And the
ring.
wedding ring. And State's exhibit number 44 for Bartell, there is your, you're missing your right ring finger.
The diamond ring that I wore for 50 years after my husband gave it to me.
Okay. I'm going to show you State's exhibit number 45 for Bartell. And is this a picture of your hand that had that unique ring that you
Yes,
have?
that I wore on my right hand.
And you or your family provided this to the Plano Police Department as an
Yes.
example of what that ring looked like.
Yes, that's my understanding.
At some point in time, were you shown State's exhibit, a picture similar to State's exhibit number 46?
And I said, that is my ring, my diamond ring that my husband gave me 50 years ago.
And on this picture, that is not your finger, though, that ring is on.
No,
Okay. State's exhibit number 47. Do you remember the Plano Police Department having you come down and identify some pictures?
yes,
And inside this packet, is that what this packet is? It's showing that their version of that same State's exhibit number
Yes.
46.
Mhm.
And did you initial that was your ring?
yes, I did.
And that's on the second page. On the third page, they show it to you again, and there is that same picture, and you're able to initial that. And this is on
Yes.
April 2nd of 2008.
Yes.
This is the picture that I guess they maybe had emailed it to you, and you were able to see it, and someone had reported back. Tom, I guess, Bartell reported back that yes, that's on that's the ring from her right hand.
Yes.
And then you initialed that as well on that
Yes.
same day. Then they also had gotten a portion of your phone activity from that morning, and it's showing that at 7:50, that's your call to Dawn Bartell,
Yes.
your sister-in-law.
That's correct.
State's exhibit number 48. Is this another picture provided by you or your family that shows your wedding ring and your engagement ring?
Yes, it is.
All right. State's exhibit number 49, Bartell. It's just a different view, but just capturing your wedding ring and your engagement ring.
Yes.
State's exhibit number 50 for Bartell. Was there a solitaire missing at some point in time? Do you know anything about a solitaire diamond missing?
Well, this is, that's the locket.
Okay,
This
let's jump to State's exhibit number 53 for Bartell. Is this the locket that you're missing that would have had your husband's?
You opened it up.
It would have your husband's picture. Okay. And Stacy number 52, is this a picture off the internet or someplace that your family had found that they said this is what it looks like?
Similar
to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's very much similar, isn't
Yeah, very similar. But this picture is a picture of you in a turtleneck wearing this
it?
locket.
Yes.
If we go back to State's exhibit number 51, you see the chain is the same chain off the same deal. Do you remember anything about a solitaire diamond being missing and giving appraisal of it? If you don't,
I don't recall that.
Okay.
That I have that missing.
Okay, so that was it. So Stacy number 50 and Stacy number 51, you don't remember that, or you don't identify with that.
Well, like you said, the chain looks similar.
Okay, and it's fine. But Stacy number 52 and 53, you do remember having that and not being able to find that out?
Oh, yes, definitely, that's the one I mentioned that was missing.
Okay. Look at State's Exhibit number 55. Does that look like one of the gold?
This looks more like the Swarovski silver-plated bracelet.
Okay, it had a crucifix on it?
Yes, it did, and this, of course, would tighten up, the wrist.
Okay. That's State's Exhibit number 55. State's Exhibit number 54 for Barton?
That would be similar to one of the gold crucifixes.
Okay. So these are just pictures that someone in your family or you have found on the internet and gave to the police and said, if you find something like this is the types of things I missed.
Well, that looks very familiar, like the Swarovski
Okay.
silver-plated bracelet. That looks accurate.
And this is just a representation of one of the kind of crosses you.
It's similar.
Okay. What about station number 56? Is that also one that was similar to the one that you were missing?
No.
Okay. 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 At this point in time, the law states Exhibit number 1 through 56 for this here. Now, when you're at the hospital, the police come and talk to you, is that right? And the detectives are getting your information. Do you remember them asking you about some money that you thought might be missing at the time?
Well, I was told that the apartment would be a crime scene for at least 2 days, and none of my family would have access to the apartment. And I said I was concerned because I had just been to the bank a day or two before and gotten some money that was in my purse on the floor in my bedroom.
And was there some question about how much money it was, right? They were asking how much?
Yes, there was. And actually, the policeman was talking to my sons Rick and Tom outside the hospital room. And the policeman said, I'll go in and ask your mother how much money she got. And I know I'm only supposed to report what I heard, but the story sort of loses its emphasis unless you know that the policeman said to my two sons, well, you know, these elderly people, when someone dies, they just go in their apartment and take all their jewelry and start wearing it.
The other people who live in the apartment, they were thinking that maybe this wasn't, that you were just losing this because other people are taking it from you.
Yeah.
But so he was going to test your memory of when you were with it.
Yes, the policeman said to not John, he was on his way to Idaho, my other two sons, that he said, I'd like to talk to your mother and see what money she got at the bank. And I said, when he came in and asked me, I said, well, I had 5 or 6 $20 bills, 1 10, 8 5s, and 35 $1 bills. And he said to me, can you add that up? I said, well, yes, I can add it up, but my head isn't working the best right now. And anyway, after he talked to me, he said in the emergency room, I heard him say, "I'm calling homicide right now."
Because he was convinced that you were with it enough to tell your story.
Yes, he didn't think I had just made up my story.
Okay. I'll pass it.
All right, can we pause right there?
Do you need a break or anything before as we go along? Or you go?
All right. So, great question, as you heard on the video. Here's a good time for a break. So, we will go ahead and take our afternoon break at this time, ladies and gentlemen. If you would, it is 3:35, so if you can be back in the jury room by 3:50, that'll give you a good 15-minute stretch break, and then we will start up when you're done with your break.
All rise.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
up to go. Oh, he gave up to go, she was on.
In the black shirt?
And then he filled back, I think so, but he gave.
But
And
they
then
want some kind of stuff. I'm sure that, but just some of that, I just like how
She's
some.
gonna use it and just kind of.
Oh, you missed, oh, she told Jimmy, she didn't want me not to use my brains. I thought it was about to go down, when she said that.
Yeah, she's just, kind of, you know, that's
I can't remember what it was, Glenn had said that he didn't want her to do her, so she's like, well.
she was like,
She was talking to Glenn when she was doing that interview. Man.
Man was about to be kicked out of those ladies. All the witnesses gotta get out of there, so nobody's. She's gonna hear that code, so I'm saying,
I know, right?
Oh, at least you feel safe. One of the attorneys said he was pissed. It's just, what he said, something he said. It was an attorney who came in there. And I don't even want to say his name, because I
Jimmy
was
said
like,
they're coffee
dude,
cookies, they're
if
just
you're
like
offended by that,
peanut butter, chocolate, oatmeal. I mean, they're not terrible cookies, they're just kind of like,
and he had to say, my son, I'm still to the shop. You already came in her wrong. Because when I first, there's 2 times I met him, he's cool. Then a few times after that, it's like, I don't know who you been talking to, or where you been, but you're not above getting your feelings hurt with me. And I will go
Well, my
on.
whole point is that that's what.
And we can all go back in the judge's office. And I'm not apologizing. I feel like if I get to the point where I'm wrong for you, then you deserve that. I'm not apologizing, because then it means I was wrong for that.
Yes, sir.
I feel wrong if I have to go on calls. You see what I'm saying? This part. You just retarded. Oh, this was doing like you crazy.
You losing like 3 almost there. He was like junior, but he worked on it.
But my thing
Old
is,
lady, cause she.
if you losing her, you losing people because it's like it's dry. But she's so witty, it's like,
Well, I'm trying to say.
I mean, they laugh at those things when they walk.
Yeah, I got, they were paying.
The point they need to know about is that somebody smothered her with a gun.
and then the thing is, the lady right there, she clutched her pearls like 2 or 3 times long, like she remembered.
So, she's definitely one.
I'm sleeping. Because I'm just like, we haven't eaten lunch. I'm hungry. It is too late. Okay, if they take me back, well, they
sure? All right, let me check.
Okay, I'll check it out my mic here, just 2 seconds.
How'd y'all figure it out?
Because someone's calling us from upstairs saying we can hear everything you're saying.
Did y'all not see me say?
I,
And I was wrong.
But it's all day.
So, let me see, you wanna say something? Let me see.
I know, right?
No, this is something about popcorn.
We were talking all about this.
Right, because it really flushed your pearls, so they got a pass out, but I like her that she made. Okay, right, what is it? Okay, it's not.
John, I had to keep that mic up here.
It's not on.
No, he just came in and took it out.
Yeah, he just, somebody put a blue shirt on.
Channel 5 just came in
Oh,
and took
okay.
it out. But I'm getting text from upstairs saying we can still hear this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You gotta help us out here.
Yeah.
Okay, because I mean, it's irresponsible to not do that.
I agree.
All right, three.
Did I give you my, witness order list?
Yes.
I have here, in the apartment, down the park, sit down. That's where I like to get to.
Okay, Yeah, that's what I couldn't see nobody else.
Oh, so they were stuck in that one too? When you saw me, it took another 15 minutes for me to move to the box. You're right behind me.
Oh, yeah. Did you see that one lady?
Well, just when I went across, I saw the line, so I just went down the road.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, yeah, sure.
I know Tanya has a gun, so I'm gonna let her shoot. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, I got him on 7:30. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Oh, your job is the best. I've got one piece of that.
Better.
I know, this is what I keep on my desk.
Ma'am,
Mine don't last that long.
Thursday, we, pre-admitted, went through, I believe it was one through,
I got it on say, hey.
yeah, photos were 1 through 56.
Yes, 1 through 56.
Okay, yep, okay, that's what I need to make sure. And then I had, that's the big one, I think, the 1 through 56,
And then it was like, 310, 311, 312.
yeah, and I have the 312, and I have the, we already got the 60 and 61. Okay, I just wanted to make sure with the photos and all this. Okay.
Okay, so there's 1 through 56, 225, 226, 227, and then 310 through 313. Okay, and then 16, 61.
So I wanted to make sure that I was correct in the photos. Okay. Did we figure out what was wrong, John?
It wasn't me, with my camera. It may have been on delay. Let me have replaying something, but it was not. It was yours, because we're still getting. He said channel 5.
I've been bad.
Nothing, I have.
Just being with you, they gave me 15 more years.
Check for you.
Hi, I don't know, I just got a text that said that the mics were still live online. And we heard judges was on your phones, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They're talking on audio, right?
I'm pulling for everyone, but I can tell you, there's no sound coming out of this camera and these microphones. I can assure you of that.
That's these microphones here as well?
The courtroom mic, just the one on the witness stand and the one on the jury box. But that display right there, well, that's bouncing. But there's nothing, it shouldn't be coming out.
talk too fast. So if I do, just tell me to slow down or start over. And I will.
Well, you know, people with hard of hearing, if you speak slowly, I'm more apt to understand what you are saying,
Okay.
rather than having everything run together.
Well, I will try to do that, and if I don't, just call me out on it, okay?
All right.
I don't have a lot of questions for you. I think that Mr. Bismarck covered most of it, but there's a few things I just wanted to go over with you, okay?
All right.
The fella who did this to you on that day, you've never seen him there before that you know of. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And quite honestly, you wouldn't know if you had or not because you didn't identify. You couldn't identify him because you didn't really look at his face that day.
That's correct.
And I think you told the police, and you repeated today that once you saw those green gloves, that's kind of what you fixated on.
Yes.
Did you, and I think you told them, the police, when they talked to you in the hospital, that you don't even know what race the fellow was.
No, that didn't bother me either because I know that, you know, when people pick someone out of a lineup, they're wrong more often than they're correct.
Well, I don't disagree, and I'm not trying to indicate that it should bother you. I don't, that's not what I'm getting at. I just mean that as far as description, you weren't able to give skin color, skin tone. I think you gave him a height of about 5'7" or 5'9". I don't remember. You gave him a height. Do you remember that?
Well, that's probably within the range. He wasn't exceptionally tall, that's sure.
And I think you said his build was similar to one of your sons.
No, I never said that. I never said there was any similarity to any of my sons.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Except that they were male.
okay. Well, I mean, you did, but it's just you were saying he had a normal build, kind of like one of my sons, and then y'all started talking about weight. I mean, I wasn't trying to indicate that either of your sons did anything wrong, but that's
I understand.
okay. But that's kind of, as far as a description goes, that's about what you were able to give the police.
Yes.
And honestly, that's all you knew at the time.
Well, I knew I was in bad shape after all that.
And I'm not saying that you weren't. I'm just trying to get some specifics.
Mhm.
I don't envy what you've been through, and I'm not trying to say that it didn't happen. I hope that's not the impression I'm giving. I'm just trying to make sure that we figure out if we have the right person or not. Okay?
All right.
At some point, you said there might have been a mask over his face. Do you remember telling the police that?
I do not remember.
Okay. Well, your memory today is if you told the police that, that might have been something you were thinking at the time, but it's not something you remember independently today.
No, and I mean, maybe I said it. I don't know. I don't recall.
Okay. But all I'm saying, you don't remember that. You don't think that's the case today as we stand here or sit here.
A mask? No, I don't think so. I doubt it.
And you didn't notice, I think Mr. Fitzmartin asked this, but you didn't notice any kind of accent or anything about his voice that stood out to you?
No, I was just mainly concerned about whether I could get some help before I died.
Well, and I'm glad you did. I'm just, like I said, I'm just trying to get some specifics, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The person who came to your house that day and roughed you up and abused you, he made you go to your bed. Were you able to determine whether or not he was actually on the bed with you, or if he was to the side of the bed, or do you have any idea where he was standing or what his position was?
I would guess, I don't know for sure, because my eyes were totally blocked out by the pillow. I would sort of guess that he was also on the bed because the pillow was being slammed down and held down so hard without any let up whatsoever.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a guess, and you're guessing better than anybody else?
I'm guessing that he was also on the bed, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. At one point, you said he might have been wearing a long sleeve shirt. Do you remember anything about that at this point?
I don't recall, do not recall.
Oh. I'm kind of backtracking a little bit, but I think you also kind of described him as being well-spoken. What does that mean?
It means he was able to say, "Don't fight me, lie on the bed."
I know he said that, but what I'm saying is, what did you mean by that? Like he sounded educated, or he sounded calm?
No, just that he knew how to speak elderese.
Okay. The rings that were taken off your hands, were you already unconscious or passed out whenever those rings were removed? So you don't know if they were pulled off forcefully or with some...
No, I don't. I was totally unconscious.
Was there any kind of injuries left on your hands from the removal of those rings?
No.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, they weren't that tight. I mean,
Okay. And I've got a ring. If I want to get this off, I've got to put lotion on it. But
no, they would come off without that.
okay.
'Cause I lost some weight.
Okay. Do you know, aside from the smashing down of the pillow in your face, was there any other injuries that the individual?
You're talking about physical injuries?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I can't imagine what you went through in your mind, but I'm saying, were there any punches, kicks, thrown around, anything like that you can think of?
I guess I'd have to say I don't recollect, but I know I didn't want to stay by myself right away after that.
I don't blame you. I hope that my questions aren't offending you. There's some specifics.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. I want to show you this picture 19. I know that you and Mr. Fitzmartin were talking about that jewelry chest, but that drawer, I think what you said is that drawer was not open prior to that morning?
No, I wouldn't have left it open like that.
So is it your belief that whoever attacked you also opened that drawer?
I really could not say.
Okay. But it wasn't you?
No,
Okay.
I wouldn't leave it like that.
And the State Exhibit 23, I think you indicated that the crucifixes were removed from the bottom left, the empty container. Are all those other things over here, is that gold jewelry as well?
Oh, that's just a handle on, this was originally a tea box. And that gold there is just a handle. There's a handle on each side of it.
I know that, but I'm talking about like these things in the middle, that thing in the bag. It appears to be a couple of chains and some things like that.
No, these are very individualized. No one would want to take anything that was that easy to identify.
Well, that may be the case, but were those gold jewelry as well? Some of them?
No, we just took the gold ones there and the gold locket that was there and the Swarovski.
Here's 24, it's kind of another view. It looks like that's what I'm talking about, that jewelry back there in those bags. Is that gold or is that just?
Oh, I think those are different awards and so on and so forth, but they're not very big.
Okay, so whoever went through there, I guess, picked out a couple things, but didn't take it all,
Well,
obviously.
didn't want to take things that were, well, I think, I'm not sure what was going on in his head.
And I wasn't asking that. I'm just saying that it appeared that they took some things and not other things.
Well, definitely left some things.
And one more question about this. Some of the chains right here look like they're kind of hanging over the dividers. Did you have it like that, or was it kind of?
I'm afraid so, I did.
Okay. So it wasn't, does it look like someone kind of grabbed it out and threw it back in, or that's just how it looked before?
I don't think those were touched from the way I left them.
Okay. Did you have an impression, and I know you were not conscious for much of this, but do you have an impression or a thought whether or not he went into any of the other rooms or areas of your house that day?
I would be surprised if he did, but I don't really know what happened when I was passed out.
I know, but I mean, nothing was missing from anywhere else other than your room there? Did anything look like it had been gone through, drawers open, nothing missing from the bathroom that you know of? Okay. And the time he was in there, how long do you think he was in your apartment before you lost consciousness that day?
I really don't know whether it was altogether 10 minutes or how long.
Several minutes?
Yeah. I said it might have been 10 minutes from the time he entered. I don't really know how long it takes to make someone unconscious when they're getting no air.
Well, I'm not trying to pin you down to a time. My question comes to this. And the entire time he was in there, which we agreed was several minutes, but probably less than 10. Is that fair?
Well, maybe. I don't really know. I couldn't say for sure how long.
Once he got past the threshold of your door, did he say anything else to you while he was in there?
No, nothing.
So the whole time he didn't mutter anything, he didn't
No.
curse, did you say anything to him that you can remember?
It's very hard to speak when...
I agree, but I mean, I would think if it was me,
I said nothing. It was impossible to say anything.
if someone was hurting me, I'd say like, please stop, something like that, but there was just no conversation that entire time between you and you.
Not when your face is mouth, chest, everything's just smashed with a pillow to suffocate you. No.
Yes, ma'am. And while that
I'm not recommending you try it, but you'll find out it doesn't work.
Okay. And while the fellow was doing that, he wouldn't say anything to you either. It was just total silence in that apartment. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Waiting for me to pass out, I guess. Medical alert button.
There you go. I'm glad one of us knows what I'm trying to say. The medical alert button, does that actually go to a third party place? Is it like a...
If I had been successful and able had been able to move my left hand and get it over my medical alert button, that's a big if, because the pillow was down so hard I couldn't even move my hand, my left arm. But when it does go off, like if I had fallen in the apartment or something, it makes the most awful squawking noise. It's just, just screams out, emergency, emergency, emergency. And I think that call, I believe, but I'm not positive, that it goes to the nearest fire station.
But it doesn't go to the front desk of this facility. It's a service. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. It's a service that exists outside of where we live. If you move apartments, you go with you. If you lived in a different place, that service would go with you.
It could, yes.
Okay. When you came to, do you know where that pillow was? The pillow that had been pushed down on your face?
I must say that was the least of my concerns, but it was still on the bed, I'm sure.
And when you woke up, was it over your face still, or did someone remove it from your face beforehand? If you don't know, that's,
I'm not positive.
okay. What's the first thing you do remember when you woke up? Or
I woke up,
Mhm.
first thing I remembered, I was on a gurney outside my bedroom, and the EMTs were giving me oxygen.
So when the ladies got there and they found you unconscious, you never woke up during that time until?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't think I have any more questions for you, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you said that you didn't want to stay by yourself. Who did stay with you after this?
My son John took 3 months of family leave to stay with me.
Okay, to make sure that you were okay to take care of it.
Yes.
What was going through your mind when, from the minute those gloves started coming towards you, what was going through your mind?
Well, as I mentioned, two things. Number one, I should not have opened the door. And number two, my life was in grave danger.
And those thoughts continued throughout this whole encounter with this man, is that right?
Well, yes, definitely.
What is your height and weight?
My height is 5 feet 3 inches. I would say my weight at that time was about 125.
Maybe that's all the questions I have. I'll pass witness.
Give him a few seconds, see if you need to follow up. I don't understand the question. There's a lot of anticipation, but I don't think I have any questions either, so thank you, ma'am.
You're operator at 2P1.
Approach up here, Judge.
Yes.
Judge, we'll call Richard Plain.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge. Your Honor.
Yes, could you please raise your right hand for me? Do you so solemnly swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, have a seat for me.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chris Martin, you may begin.
Thank you, Judge. Can you please state your name, spell your last name?
Yes, my name is Richard Plank, and it's spelled P as in Peter, L-I-N-C-K.
And Mr. Plink, do you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area?
Yes, I live in Allen, Texas.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to March of 2018. Are you familiar with a place called, an apartment complex called Preston Place?
Yes, that's where my mother resided.
Okay. And that's at 5000 Old Shepherd Road?
Correct.
And how old was your mother at the time?
She was 99.
Okay. And did you visit her, how long had she lived at Preston Place?
Since actually 1999.
Okay. And is she still with us today?
No, she passed last year.
Okay. Would you go and visit her there on a pretty regular basis?
Yeah, it would be about 2 to 3 times a week.
And what building did she live in?
She lived in Building 8.
And do you know Mary Bartell?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And she lived in that same building?
She lived in the apartment downstairs from my mother and from my mother's apartment to the left.
Okay. Permission to approach?
Yes.
I'll show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 64. Is that a layout of the Preston Place Retirement Meeting?
Okay, I see Building 8. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
We'll offer State's Exhibit number 64.
All right, State Exhibit number 64 will be admitted.
Okay, as we're looking here at State's Exhibit number 64, to the top of the diagram, is that Old Shepherd Place, the street there?
Yes, it is.
And then this other street that it is on the corner of, what would that be?
That would be Preston Road.
All right, and so it looks like there's 2 entrances into this that people would use.
Yeah, there was 2 by the office. There was one to the west of the office, and then there was another one to the right of the office. And I believe the one to Preston Road was closed.
Okay, so to come into this, would you generally come in off of Old
You'd
Shepherd?
have to come in off of Shepherd and decide which way you were going to go.
All right, and you said your mom was in what building?
She was in Building 8.
Okay, is that right here?
Yes.
All right, and there's as delineated here, a garage, and then is this a parking area right out front?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then back in here is this kind of a greenery kind of area?
It's greenery, yes.
All right. And so if you wanted to get into these areas where the apartments are, these little indents, are those kind of the breezeways into where the apartments are?
Yes, they are.
Okay. And did your mom have a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom?
She had a 1-bedroom.
And was it, and you know Mary Bartell had a 2-bedroom?
Yeah, she had like a double apartment, I believe.
Okay, and so if it's a 2-bedroom, would it span both sides of Building 8?
I believe so.
Okay, and your mom just has half of the Building 8 side.
Right, correct.
Which way, if you were to look out a window of your mom's apartment, which way would you look out, to the greenery or to the parking area?
No, I'd be looking to the parking area.
So I want to direct your attention to March 15th, okay? We just heard about March 19th, but on March 15th, did you come and visit your mom that morning?
Yes, I did. I came to visit, to actually take her to the doctor.
Okay, so did you pick her up from Building 8?
I picked her up from Building 8, and it was at 10 a.m.
And where did y'all go?
We went to the doctor, and then we went to lunch afterward.
When you were there that morning, did you notice anybody in the parking area?
Yes, I did notice an individual, and was parked the car and didn't really have anywhere to go, was just kind of standing around.
All right, so he's outside of his car standing around.
Outside of the car standing around, and I really at that point didn't pay too much attention because it didn't seem out of the norm.
And this is a pretty good size apartment complex. Would you?
Yes, there's people coming in and out.
Okay, and there's some caregivers that come and things like that?
Yes, caregivers, there's therapists and such.
Family members coming to visit?
Yes,
such
correct.
Okay. And so you take your mom to her doctor's appointment, you take her to lunch, and then where do you go after that?
Then after that, we returned to Preston Place, and it was about 12:30.
And did you notice the same man was there?
I noticed the same man, the car was in the same position, the same man just standing around, nowhere specific to go. And that then did get me suspicious.
All right, and do you remember how he was dressed?
I would say business casual. He wasn't dressed like a maintenance person or anything, and I don't believe had a tie, but dressed very well, so didn't appear out of place.
Okay. So when you, what did you do? So where did you go with your mom?
Okay, so at that point, we got out of the car. She had a walker. I took her with her walker. We went to the elevator, because she could no longer go up the stairs. We went into her apartment, and then at that point, because I had my suspicions, I then looked out from her apartment and looked towards the car.
And what did you
And then I
see?
saw the car move over to the next building, and I believe that would have been Building 9. That was Building 9.
Okay. And so the individual's gotten back into his car and has moved his car just up to Building 9, which is just,
Yeah, it's a very short distance.
all right? And
And he did not get out of the car.
he just
So
parked.
that's further, yeah, parked and stayed in the car, and that really got my suspicion even more.
Okay. And so what did you do at that time?
So at that point, I decided I was gonna get the make, model, and color and license of the vehicle. So I got Mom settled, and then I went to leave. And this was about from the time I got her into the apartment to the time we left, maybe about 10 minutes. So then I did that, I approached the vehicle, and I knew I couldn't get everything at one point. So I approached the vehicle and got the make, model, and color, and noted that in my mind. And I approached the individual and asked him a question. After that, I went back to my car and then drove out, passing the car, passing building number 9, and noted the license number. And then I pulled around and pulled out of sight from building 9 and started entering the phone number, rather the license number into my phone. At which point the individual drove past me in a car as appearing to leave, and with some direction. You know, it's not just idling, but with direction of wanting to leave, or at least appearing to leave.
Do you remember what type of a car it was?
It was a Nissan Sentra.
A Nissan?
Rather Sentra and Altima. It was a silver Nissan Altima.
Okay. And then did you notice the license plate?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall that license? What the license?
I still have it in my phone. I would have to look there, but I don't remember. It was a Texas plate.
Okay. All right. Do you remember permission to approach?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you. Did you give a statement to the Plano Police Department?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, don't read it out. But do you see that you gave a license plate?
Yes.
At that time? Okay. Do you remember the license plate?
Yes, I do remember, and that is my writing.
Okay. And what was the license plate that you gave at that time?
KGM 520.
520 or
1520.
1520.
KGM 1520.
This is about 4 years ago. Is that right?
Yeah, that was in 20. Yeah, it would be 4 years, a little bit over 4 years ago.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so let me show you what's marked as States Exhibits 62 and 63. Is that the car that you saw that day?
Yes, it is.
We'll offer States Exhibits 62 and 63.
Objection.
Next, States Exhibit number 62 through 63 will be admitted.
Well, States Exhibit 62, that's the back end of this Nissan Altima with that license plate KGM 1520. Is that right?
Yes.
And then States Exhibit number 63, is that the side angle of it, that same vehicle?
Yes.
And when you went up to approach the individual, let me ask you this. Do you see the individual in the courtroom here today? Do you recognize anybody in here that's the same individual?
A general description I would, but I couldn't say that the individual, I would recognize anyone that would actually be that individual.
Okay, generally, what did the individual look like?
The individual was a medium build African-American male.
Okay. And when you went up to speak to the individual, was he inside the car or outside the
He
car?
was inside the car.
And what did you ask him?
I asked him if I could be of assistance.
And what did he say?
And he said, and I believe he said something to the effect, "Oh, I'm here to see my father," or something like that.
Okay. He didn't need your assistance.
No.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Hayes or Mr. Warren?
Good afternoon, Mr. Plank. How are you?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I have just a few questions for you.
Okay,
And I wasn't there, so whenever I ask questions, it's for information.
sure.
I know it's been a while, but just in all honesty, you didn't remember the name of that license plate until you read about that document that Mr. Fitzwater just showed you.
That's true.
And I don't blame you, but I mean, it's not like you had an independent memory of it.
Right.
And the fella that you talked to out there, you gave the best description you could, but all you could say is medium, build, African American.
Correct,
Nothing
yes.
else stood out about it.
That was it, and dressed business casual.
Okay. You remember short sleeve, long sleeve, or?
I really don't.
Okay. That's not a gotcha question, I'm just.
No, I understand.
You pulled up there to take your mom to the doctor. This vehicle was there, and he was standing near the vehicle?
Yes, he was standing in front of it. And I mean on the walkway, not in the parking lot, but on the walkway.
Was he looking at something or just standing there?
Well, just kind of standing, nowhere particular to go. So just, if you would say a term would be like loitering or something,
Nowadays, it seems like if you look at someone who's been standing still for more than 10, 15 seconds, they're looking at their phone.
I don't recall looking at the phone.
Okay, so you just standing there.
Yes,
You took your mom to the doctor.
yes,
Went to lunch, came back.
yes.
How much time had elapsed in that period?
2.5 hours,
So you're gone for about 2.5 hours.
correct.
And you get back and you see the same thing.
Exact same thing, yes. Appears to be the same individual, and the car's same spot, standing there with nowhere really go, no clear direction.
Is it your belief he'd just been standing on that sidewalk for 2.5 hours?
Well, that's what I have to kind of go by. I mean, I really don't know because I wasn't there all 2.5 hours.
Okay.
But that's what did pique my suspicion.
Well, I think that would pique anybody's suspicion.
Yeah,
You've never seen that vehicle there before?
no,
Never saw it since?
no,
Never saw that individual there before?
no,
And you're there 2 or 3 times a week?
yes.
And just, you don't know if he'd been standing there for 2.5 hours or if he left and came back?
That is a true statement.
I guess if he did come back, he had the same parking spot there.
Oh, yes, that much is so. I know what I saw at 10 and I get the same at 12:30.
Okay. When you went and approached him, was he polite to you?
Pardon?
When you went and approached him, was he polite to you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we just had like a couple word conversation.
But nothing about that exchange stands out other than what's important?
No, nothing stands out.
Nothing in his hands or anything like that?
No.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Plank, for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the information.
Mr. Plank, when you had this information, you put it down in your phone. What did you do with that information that day or shortly thereafter?
I reported it to the office,
Okay.
to the individuals at the office, and they indicate they would supply it to the Plano police.
So it stood out enough to you to where you didn't want to just record this for your own information. This was odd enough for you to actually call the office to let them know about this individual that was acting odd to you.
Definitely, yes.
Okay. And in that area where he was at, those aren't assigned spots for the different apartments or anything like that.
Right, no, they're first come, first served. They're open to visitors or residents.
I'll pass with this.
Anything further, Mr. Payne?
Yeah, just a second.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'm sorry.
That's fine. That's fine.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Mr. Blake, real quick, this number, just want to show you, you looked at State's Exhibit number 63, and you seen, that's that same small version of that.
Right.
I'll show you State's Exhibit number 315, and you're familiar with 5000 Old Shepherd, that's what we're talking about.
Yes,
Is that right? And that morning you saw that car there on March 15th.
correct.
I'll pass it on.
Okay, any more questions?
No,
Okay, all right. May this,
no, ma'am.
oh, okay, thank you. May this, witness be released?
Yes, Judge.
Mr. Hayes, Mr. Warren, may this witness be released?
No, any objection?
Okay, all right, well, you can step down. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Clinton.
thank you.
You may call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. We'll call Detective, thank you, Mr. Plain.
Thank you.
All right, we'll call Detective Johnson.
Where's that when he's coming in?
Yes. Detective Johnson, you can take this one. All right. If you would, please raise your right hand for me.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you so solemnly swear affirm to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, have a seat for me.
Yes, ma'am.
And you can testify with or without your mask, whatever makes you feel comfortable, okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Mr. Fitzmartin?
Thank you, Judge. Can you please state your name and spell your last name?
George Johnson, Johnsson.
And how are you employed?
City of Plano as a Plano police officer.
How long have you been with the city of Plano as a police officer?
A little over 22 years.
And what are your duties as a police officer with the city of Plano?
I'm a detective in our intelligence unit.
What does that mean?
In our unit, we work as far as finding and locating fugitives, obviously disseminating intelligence within our department. We're gambling and prostitution cases.
And how long have you held that role?
I've been in the unit 8 years now.
Before that, were you in different roles there at the Plano Police Department?
Yes, sir. I worked as a patrol officer for 10 years and also worked as a narcotics detective for 5 years.
I'm going to direct your attention back to March of 2018. Okay, did you have an occasion at that time to do some investigation into the case of Billy Chemirmir?
Yes, sir.
As part of this intelligence group that you're in, did you get a license plate from one of the detectives in this case, Detective Chemirmir?
Yes, sir.
And do you recall the license plate number that you were given?
King George Mary 1520.
And when you got that information, did you start doing some research on that license plate?
Yes, sir.
What types of things do you do?
So we use various databases. Obviously, we have some paid databases called Accurate, TLO. We all have, obviously, plenty of fake social media sites, access to a lot of other departments, records, accident reports, etc.
Now, these databases that you're talking about, like Accurate or TLO, do they give you an idea of where the license plate is popping around your city? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, sir. There's a database called Learn, and basically what it does, there's some fixed cameras actually around the Metroplex and also like on top of tow trucks. So they'll go by and actually capture license plates. If it's taken during the day, a lot of times you can actually see the entire car. At night, sometimes you'll definitely get the license plate, but it'll show an accurate date and time of when that license plate was captured. And a lot of times we'll get a lot here in that apartment complex hotels for like a tow truck driver that drives through there and captures the license plate.
So when you had the license plate of KGM 1520, were you able to develop a name associated with that license plate in registration of vehicles?
Yes, sir. I first developed a Tom Ogden, which was a registered owner of the vehicle with an address of 7220 McAllen Boulevard.
Right. And is that ONDENG for Tom?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so you had an address of an individual that's associated with that car. And were you able to kind of do some comparisons with that as far as where these license plates were showing up?
Yes, sir. On Tom Ogden, he actually had 3 vehicles registered to him. A different vehicle was showing on the Learn database at his address at the 7220 McAllen Boulevard. But the license plate of the silver Nissan Altima was hitting at 4500 Pear Ridge, a residence that he didn't show to work at. Based on that information, I didn't believe that Tom Ogden was driving that vehicle.
And you said an address he didn't work at or live at?
Yes, sir.
That 4500 Pier Ridge is another apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
Rancho Palisades apartment complex?
Yes, sir.
All right, and so now that you have the fact that you have this Nissan Altima that's registered to one person but not showing up ever at that person's address, does that seem odd to you?
Yes, sir. Or consistent with what I've seen before.
Okay. And so
sometimes it's not so exact that we'll know exactly where somebody is, but a lot of times it puts us in the area.
And that just kind of helps you to kind of narrow down your search when you're looking for someone in this large of an area.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall, you said sometimes you get notified by email. Is that how you got notified this time, is through email?
Yes.
And do you recall approximately what time the first ping came back from Mr. Chemirmir?
The first one came in at 17:32 hours, 5:32.
So 5:32.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the area that they said he could possibly be in, was that a large or a small area?
This first one was a large area.
Okay. And where was that? I'm going to move this to March. I guess we'll put up March 20th. Sorry, Judge, may I have to
Okay.
Here's State Exhibit number 317, and his home is right here at 4500 Pier Ridge. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
The first ping that you got, was it kind of in that general area of the Dallas area?
Yes, sir. It was right in this area right here.
So you knew generally where he was, but not specific enough to go and say, someone go to this corner and he's right there.
Correct, sir.
Now, did you have some of your team members stationed at 4500 Pier Ridge?
Yes, sir.
And were you all in constant communication with each other, either through radio or phones or things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
Did you get another ping on that phone?
Yes, sir.
And what time was that ping?
That was at,
Right where Mr. Chemirmir was?
a lot of times when someone is outside, not in the car, not in the building, sometimes the parameters, the raised thing will be a lot smaller because they're getting a better signal and able to connect to the tower better. So that last radius was really small, and it's right over the area where Chemirmir was arrested, because I talked to one of the detectives I worked with. He's like, hey, we arrested him here in the parking lot.
After that, your job is done there, right? To kind of monitor the emails coming in and to inform your partners. Where did you go after that?
After that, I went down to that address, that 4500 Pear Ridge, and just assisted with surveillance on the apartment until a search warrant was completed.
I'll pass witness.
Any questions, Mr. Reyes or Mr. Warren?
Yes, ma'am. You the detective?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Tell me about the pings. You said the first one was a really big radius. How big a radius?
You mind if I place up my notes, sir?
Mine at all. Mine at all. Whatever you need to give me an accurate answer.
This is, I put a snapshot of kind of what I look at on the first one. So it's everywhere. The east edge is all the way right in the middle of Frankfurt Road, and so it's going all the way. I would say that's probably 600-700 meters down.
The radius?
Yeah, it's actually 653 meters to be exact. I'm sorry for.
The ping circle is 653 meters across?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the phone could be anywhere in that 653 meters?
Yes, sir.
And that's?
Yes and no.
That's 2,000 feet, give or take?
Yes, sir.
I mean, right,
Yeah,
it's
approximately, yes, sir.
about 3 feet to a meter, give or take?
Yes, sir.
32 inches, I think. I don't know. Don't get me in trouble there. So we're talking about almost half a mile circle.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the second ping you said was about the same size, that half a mile across?
Yeah, that one was 719 meters.
So bigger.
Yes, sir.
And then the third one, what was the radius of that?
11 meters.
Okay, so it is significantly different. That's 30 feet.
Yes, sir.
So that could actually zero it down to a parking lot, whereas there's other ones that have been anywhere in 2 or 3 blocks.
Yes and no, sir. Are you going to explain?
Sure.
Okay. Whenever you have a ping, and I've been doing this like multiple times a week for 8 years, sometimes we'll find someone actually outside that radius, sometimes right in the middle. This is the thing, you know, on just GPS E911 pings, this isn't an exact science, but it puts us in the area. But whenever this one shrinks down to 11, that is very consistent of what I've seen hundreds, probably thousands of times, and when someone is, I can tell that phone is outside the building, outside the car, because of that being able to connect to, you know, the towers with that.
Okay, well, that's what I just said. The last ping was very precise. You could narrow it down to
Right.
the size of a parking
But
lot.
again, I can't say that it's definitely within this area.
I know you can't, but even if you could, that covers 40 blocks.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first 2 pings are very, very non-specific.
Correct.
And of course, that was 30 minutes prior to, the first ping was 30 minutes prior to the third ping, so you don't know where that phone was in that 30 minutes.
No, sir, not exactly.
And you don't know who was with the phone, you just know at that last ping, Mr. Chemirmir had that phone in the parking lot.
No, sir.
No, sir, what?
The first part that you stated was the question would be no, sir.
Okay.
I do believe I know who it is with.
Well, you can believe all you want, but I mean, you don't know who had that phone 30 minutes prior to him being arrested. All you know is who had it when he got arrested. Right?
I believe that he had the phone, sir, and he had the phone when he was arrested.
Okay. Did you understand my question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, you don't know where the phone was an hour before, 2 hours before, or 30 minutes before, but you do know where the phone was when Mr. Chemirmir was arrested.
Sir, I can't answer that honestly the way you're asking it.
And you were actually at that apartment complex that day? That 4500 Pear Ridge?
Yes, sir.
What time did you get there, you think?
It was probably an hour or 2 after that. I don't remember the exact time. I wasn't the first one there.
Okay. You weren't one of the people who arrested Mr. Chemirmir?
No, sir, I was not.
And you weren't there when that happened?
No, sir, I was not.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions, Mr. Fitzmark?
No, Your Honor.
All right, may his witness be released?
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. May his witness be released?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
State you may call your name, please.
We'll call Detective Knight.
Good afternoon.
Hello, ma'am.
All right, you raise your right hand for me,
Yes, ma'am.
please. Do you so solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
All right, you can have a seat.
Thank you.
And Mr. Fitzmark, you may begin.
Thank you, Judge. Can you please state your name and spell your last name?
My name's Bill Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T.
And how are you employed?
I'm a surveillance detective with the City of Plano Police Department.
And when you're a surveillance detective, what does that mean?
Basically, we go out and try to locate vehicles, people, suspects for other detectives within the department, other units and stuff.
And were you, I'm going to direct your attention back to March 20th of 2018. Were you asked to perform those tasks by some of the Plano detectives dealing with Billy Chemirmir.
Yes, sir.
We just heard from Detective Johnson, and he was talking about the intel side of this and doing some background on finding out who and where Mr. Chemirmir might have been. Were you given an address in the Dallas area for Mr. Chemirmir?
Yes, sir.
And where did you go?
To an apartment complex at 4500 Pear Ridge, I believe it was.
And how many other detectives are there at that location at the same time?
Well, a bunch of us went. There were some detectives already there, at least one. Just a rough estimate, probably 8 at the beginning, but I think more came after that.
All right, so you're kind of scattered throughout, trying to find any place that Mr. Chemirmir might be at this apartment complex.
Yes, sir. We had good information that there was an apartment there that he was staying at.
And when you're doing this, and you and your team, are you dressed in civilian clothes, uniforms? How are you dressed?
Yes, sir. We're just dressed in regular clothes, blue jeans, t-shirts, shirts, whatever. No uniform.
And the cars you're driving, are they marked squad cars, or are they in plain ordinary cars as well?
No, sir. They're just normal pickups and SUVs, cars, covert vehicles.
Were you given an assigned spot to kind of hang out in that day?
Well, I ended up in the northeast corner of the complex.
And what is next to where you were kind of stationed?
So I backed into the last parking row in the northeast corner, on that specific row of parking, and right next to me was a dumpster enclosure, a brick wall that had bushes planted around it to hide the dumpster.
Did y'all know which spot that Mr. Chemirmir's apartment is associated with as far as the parking spots are concerned?
Yes, sir. It was number 67.
And was that vacant when you all were there working on your surveillance?
Yes, sir.
So, when you get to your spot, we've heard about a Nissan Altima that was being driven by Mr. Chemirmir and had gotten into a wreck. Did you know that you don't need to be looking for the Nissan Altima anymore?
That's correct, sir. We weren't sure what kind of vehicle we were looking for at that time.
And you had a description and of Mr. Chemirmir and who you were looking for in that?
Yes, sir. We had a briefing sheet with a picture of Mr. Chemirmir.
Do you see Mr. Chemirmir in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
Can you point at him and describe an article of clothing?
He's wearing a black suit top with a white and black striped tie.
Let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant in open court.
The record will so reflect.
Commissioner Approaches.
You may.
I'm going to show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 67. Is this the a layout of the apartments there at 4500 Pear Ridge Drive?
Yes, sir.
And does it show where some of the other detectives were positioned at the time of Mr. Chemirmir's arrest?
Yes, sir.
And does it show an orientation there? The north is going up in that direction?
Yes, sir.
We'll offer State's Exhibit number 67.
No objection.
All right, number 67 will be admitted. You may publish.
Thank you, Judge. So as this is oriented here, we can see the north going in that direction. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you have a street here, Pier Ridge, and that's where the 4500 Pier Ridge comes from. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
If we were to go farther over in this direction, over towards the defense counsel table over here, is that where the toll road is?
Yes, sir, to the west.
Okay. And then down here at the bottom of this, you can see that that's Frankfurt Road.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right? All right. And so you had said that you had developed a potential apartment for Mr. Chemirmir. Is that delineated here in this red X?
Actually, Detective Claggett did that footwork, but yes, sir, I think apartment 3110, I can't read the apartment numbers from here.
Okay. I can't either. But
But yes, it was in that area where you have Detective Claggett's name. Somewhere in that area there.
Actually, if we keep on going down, can you see it now? You look to your
I
right.
guess it's a red X there.
Look to your right.
No, the other way.
The other right.
Turn
around.
I'm sorry.
Right there you go.
Sorry. Is this 3110? I do know my left and right, I'm sorry.
3110, yeah.
I apologize.
You're all right. You're all right. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you to look to your right. Don't worry about it. Okay, so let's just go through this real quick here. We've got some names here. Harris, you see that name there?
Yes, sir.
And then we've got T. Hughes up here.
Yes, sir. Sergeant Hughes.
All right, Claggett.
Yes, sir.
Is that another one of the detectives out there?
Yes, sir. He's one of the intel detectives.
I see BK here. Who's that?
That's me, sir.
Okay. And then Garcia's down here. And who would that be?
That says Dom, but it's Sergeant Salem, Dominic Salem.
Okay. All right. And so, and then we have a dumpster written right here in this corner.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so you had told us about you sitting up on this, kind of this area here in this dumpster in this parking spot.
Yes, sir.
And you're backed in?
Yes, sir.
And you're just doing your surveillance thing?
Yes, sir.
All right. And we see number 67 is right there. Parking spot 67?
Yes, sir.
All right. I want to, around 5:50, around that time, on March 20th, did you all start communicating about what different people were seeing in the parking lot?
Yes, sir. Actually, Sergeant Hughes broadcast over the radio that a car was entering the complex, and the driver was a possible match for Mr. Chemirmir.
And did he give you a license plate of 4B91F2?
Actually, I think I put that license plate out from the dumpster.
Okay, you got it from there?
Yes, sir.
All right. So there's a description's coming and a car description's coming, and then do you eventually see that car coming in your direction?
Yes, sir.
And is it coming from the west?
It's coming from west to east along that north drive area there.
And what happens when it gets to the dumpster?
It stops and parks.
And then what do you see happen?
The driver gets out, and again, I'm partially obstructed by the brick wall and the shrubbery, but I can see over enough to see an individual wearing a brown hat. And of course, I saw Mr. Chemirmir pass me when he drove in front of my truck.
Okay, so you were able to identify him as he's pulling in front of you to park there at that dumpster?
I didn't positively 100% identify him at that point, but it looked like a very good possible match.
An individual matching the description you were
Yes,
given by
sir.
Mr. Chemirmir. Okay. And so the individual stops, and what do they do when they get there?
So the vehicle stops in front of the dumpster. The driver gets out, and like I said, I could see the top of a brown hat. It appeared that he went to the rear driver's door, messed around there for a minute, and then he walked to the dumpster.
And then what? And then is that it, or does he do anything else?
No, sir. He walked to the dumpster. I heard some stuff banging around. Again, I couldn't see what was going on there. And then he returned to the car. And when he returned, he walked around the rear, and I could see the trunk. And as a matter of fact, right before this, I put the license plate number out and the state. It's a Tennessee tag. And then he went to the passenger rear door.
And what happens when he gets to the passenger rear door?
He spent some time over there, ducked down, and as he was going around, and when he opened the door, I guess he noticed that I was sitting in my truck, and then I was looking at him, and I knew it was the person we were looking for, Mr. Chemirmir, at that point.
Okay. And he goes back to his truck, and
He goes back to the car. Yes, sir. Goes back to the car, gets in the rear passenger seat. I can't see what he's doing. I hear some banging, some noise, and then he gets out of the back seat. He was pretty deep in there, it seemed like, and walks back to the dumpster. I hear something large being thrown in there, or another loud noise. It sounded like something large, and returns to his car, and then proceeds to turn around, move the car, and faces it west and starts driving west.
Eventually, do you hear anything more over the radio about this car?
Yes, at that point, I communicated that he was turning around and driving back towards Detective Claggett, and then Detective Claggett had primary radio communication at that time because the car was traveling towards him, and Detective Claggett told all of us that the vehicle and Mr. Chemirmir were pulling into parking space number 67.
What did you do at that time?
Well, we started converging on that location and initiated an arrest.
And where did you go specifically on that arrest?
I went to the Sergeant Hughes and Detective Claggett were on the driver's side of the vehicle, so I went to the passenger side and I opened the front passenger door.
And was Mr. Chemirmir cooperative?
No, sir. Detective Claggett was ordering him out, and he wouldn't get out. Detective Claggett ended up grabbing and started pulling him, and I actually climbed in the front seat and started pushing him out from the passenger side.
And eventually, were you able to get control of him and put him under arrest?
Yes, sir.
Once he is secured, was there other property and things of that nature there?
When I opened the door and entered the passenger compartment of the vehicle, I noticed that in his left hand he had some jewelry and a pretty significant stack of currency, American money.
Okay. So at this point in time, is everybody kind of converging on this one spot that's out there?
Yes, sir.
Once he's contained and that scene is kept in order, did you and Detective Garcia and Detective Harwell go back to the dumpster?
Yes, sir, we did.
And we haven't mentioned Detective Harwell's name, but he was another individual that's out there.
Yes, sir. He's actually one of the members of my unit, the surveillance unit.
Same thing with Detective Garcia?
Detective Garcia is more attached to intel, but we all work together. When one unit needs more manpower, we're all converged.
I don't know what this thing's doing over here. It goes for it. But, okay. And so you go back to the dumpster, and did you all find some items inside that dumpster that were being able to identify a victim in the Dallas area?
Yes, sir. We returned to the dumpster, and sitting on top of some of the trash was a very large red jewelry box that had really ornate Asian decorations on it. Little, what you would call them, Asian characters on the box, and it also had some type of copper or copper-colored metal on the box.
Let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit number 122. Is that what you're talking about inside that dumpster?
That's exactly what it's talking about, sir.
We'll offer State's Exhibit number 122.
State's Exhibit number 122 will be admitted.
All right, so State's Exhibit number 22, this is inside the dumpster?
Yes, sir.
All right, did you take that picture?
Yes, sir.
All right. Detective Harwell and Detective Garcia, were they the individuals that actually collected this out of the dumpster?
Yes, sir. They had rubber gloves on, so they took care of that, and I just photographed it.
When you were done with this location here, were you part of the team of Plano police officers and detectives that went to 6609 Warm Breeze?
Yes, sir.
That address was developed sometime that day?
That address was developed from information that we found inside that red jewelry box.
When you got to that, did you try to make contact with the owner of 6609 Warm Breeze?
Not initially, because Sergeant Hughes and Detective Grant met with the Dallas Police Department. They were informing them of what we were doing, why we were there, and we just stood by at that time for further instruction, really.
Yeah, so that's not your jurisdiction at that point in time. That's now the city of Dallas's jurisdiction.
Right.
But was there, before the Dallas Police Department had to make a forced entry in there, was there any, did it look like there had been any kind of forced entry into that?
No, everything appeared secured and in order like it should be at a house.
At some point in time, in the arrest of Mr. Chemirmir, were there some keys found in the car of Mr. Chemirmir?
Yes, sir. There was a keychain and one of the cup holders in the front passenger compartment between where the driver sits and where the passenger sits.
At some point in time, do you ask for those keys to be brought to the Warm Breeze?
Yes, sir. After communicating with one of the Dallas detectives, contacted or spoke to Detective Garcia, who retrieved the keys and delivered them to Warm Breeze.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Hayes and Mr. Moore?
Detective Knapp, I got a few questions.
Yes, sir.
I say that a lot, sometimes it turns into more than a few, but I'll try to keep it brief.
Quite all right.
What time do you remember, in approximate, I know that you may not have the exact time, but approximately what time do you believe Mr. Chemirmir pulled into that complex parking lot that day?
It was about 17:50 hours or 5:50 p.m.
And I think you said you saw him pull in, but I guess you didn't see what he was getting out of the car. Did the dumpster block your view?
No, sir. The dumpster enclosure, apartment complexes build structures around the dumpsters so it's not such an eyesore, I guess. So, and then sometimes they plant vegetation, shrubbery around them. So that's what I had blocking my view.
Okay.
The total view.
Certainly, we appreciate that. We live at those places, but it makes it difficult. You couldn't see what he was putting in the dumpster, I guess.
No, I could not.
How were you able to see him walking back and forth to the dumpster?
I could see the top of his head over the wall when he was on the driver's side of the vehicle, but when he passed around to the passenger side of the vehicle, I could see the trunk clearly. I gave the license plate out over the radio and stuff. I could see the rear of the car. I just couldn't see the driver's side and the front area.
Okay. And he went back to the dumpster, I think you said 2 or 3 times?
At least twice.
Maybe 3 times or just twice?
It could have been 3, but I know for sure twice.
And you never saw him put anything in there, but you heard noise?
I heard a lot of noise.
Okay. And you were wearing what that day? You said blue jeans and...
I don't know specifically, civilian clothes, but even though we wear plain clothes or civilian clothes, we do have plate carriers on, magazine pouches, it says police. I have a cloth badge, Velcro on that, so people actually know that we're the police when we go in to arrest them, so there's no question.
Because if not, somebody would get freaked out if they had a handful of jewelry and money and a bunch of plainclothes people started walking up towards them.
Imagine if you didn't have any police markings, people would get pretty concerned, and maybe concerned anyway.
And if a bunch of people in blue jeans and shirts started walking up on your car and you didn't notice they were police, you might not just climb out right away.
Well, we don't expect everyone to read the plate carrier. We shout very loudly that we're the police, and we give instructions from there to put your hands up or do whatever we want them to do before we arrest them, so that they know there's no confusion.
Okay, but no marked cars, no sirens, no lights, none of that?
Not, our covert vehicles do have lights and sirens, but I don't recall if we had any sirens on, and I don't know if anyone turned their lights on.
How many people approached the vehicle, you think, where Mr. Chemirmir was in?
Well, initially 3, Sergeant Hughes, Detective Claggett, and I, but everyone converged on it, so it didn't take long we're all close to that apartment unit, because that's where we were expecting Mr. Chemirmir to return to, so it didn't take long, and I don't know how many detectives ended up there.
I mean, 6, 20?
I don't know. Not 20. But
Okay. Somewhere between 6 and 20?
well, it's less than 20. I don't know.
And they all converged on Mr. Chemirmir. Everybody's wearing plain clothes. Everybody, I guess, had a vest on with plate carrier.
Right. And we did have one marked unit there, actually, and that's who ended up transporting him.
Okay. But they got there later.
At some point.
not until he was already subdued and on the ground.
Well, we got him up, but yes, he was already handcuffed by the time, I think, I'm pretty sure by the time the MARC unit pulled around.
Did any of you guys have body cameras on that?
I did not, and I don't even think we were issued cameras at that point yet, because the patrol was issued cameras, and it took a while for all of us detectives to have them. We all have them now, but I don't think any of us had them then. I don't think they were issued to us at that point.
Okay, so the answer is no.
Well, I don't know about everyone, but I did not have one.
Okay. Let me ask you one more thing. You mentioned a couple of detectives, Harwell and Garcia, they collected evidence and they put on gloves.
They had gloves on, yes, sir.
What's the purpose of that?
To not contaminate any evidence that we're photographing, collecting, etc.
You agree it's pretty important not to contaminate any evidence?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, y'all are taught that at school to use certain procedures where you take care of evidence that's collected. You never know what's important and what's not when you're
That's true. Yes.
when you're first getting involved in a crime scene.
True.
Or what you expect to be a crime scene.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge.
Anything further, Mr. Smother?
Real quick, Judge, so the clothes and the insignia, I mean, when you're sitting there surveillance, you don't have your police garb on, right?
Yes, sir. A lot of times we'll cover up with a towel or another T-shirt or something. But
when you're approaching someone to do an arrest, is it pretty plain to see the police and your badges and all?
It's very, very plain to see, and we're yelling very loudly, identifying ourselves, because we don't want someone to think that it's just a bunch of people going to rob them or something. So clearly we want them to know that we're the police and what our intentions are.
And your guns are drawn?
Yes, sir.
It is a felony takedown, very intense situation to try to make sure that everybody is safe, you and the subject you're trying to arrest.
Yes, sir.
The banging that you heard back in his car, I mean, it's loud. Were your windows down or up?
Windows were up. Windows were up.
So there was significant noise coming from the back seat of his car.
Yes.
I'll pass with this.
Okay.
I am curious. I thought you said the banging was coming from the dumpster.
Both. I heard a noise when he was at the car on the passenger side in the back seat, and I heard a lot of noise at the dumpster.
What noise did you hear from the car?
Just banging, just noise, something being hit. I couldn't see what he was doing, so I had no idea what the noise was from.
How far away was the vehicle from you?
10 or 15 yards max, probably.
So 45 feet away?
Or less, somewhere within there.
You heard some weird banging coming from the car.
Yes, sir.
Nothing further.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right, may this witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
If you please raise your right hand for me. Do you so solemnly swear to affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
All right, you may have a seat. And if you feel more comfortable testifying with the mask, you may, or you can take it off. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Detective. Can you please state your name, spell your last name?
My name is Joe Claggett. My last name is spelled C-L-A-G-G-E-T-T.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed as a detective with the Plano Police Department.
And are you part of the same unit as Detective Johnson and Detective Knight, working out in surveillance and intelligence?
Correct, I'm with the intelligence unit.
And did you have an occasion to work the arrest of Billy Chemirmir on March 20th of 2018?
Yes, sir, I did.
You see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir, I did.
Can you point at him, describe an article clothing?
He's wearing a black and white striped tie and a clear face mask.
Let the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant in open court.
The record will show the
Now, Detective Claggett, we've already talked to Detective Knight, and he kind of gave us the overview of what you all were doing that day, and we indicated that your name's on there, Claggett, sitting at, I don't know if that's number 61 or 62, somewhere around there.
Yes.
Just down from spot 67, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, and that spot 67 was the spot that you were interested in?
Correct.
Okay. Did you know that that spot was associated with Mr. Chemirmir's apartment?
Yes, that's what the leasing staff had told me that morning.
And you had found that out. Did y'all think he was at a different apartment that morning, maybe?
Initially, yes. So initially thought he was in apartment 531. I then contacted the office, and they provided information leading me to believe that he was in apartment 3110.
And then 3110 has
Assigned spot.
an assigned spot of 67.
Yes, sir.
And it was vacant at the time?
Yes, sir.
So you're sitting at your spot, and did you hear radio traffic about a car approaching that matches a description?
Yes, Sergeant Hughes informed he saw a vehicle, which you can't see his location here, but he's more top left. There it is. From his location, he advised he saw a vehicle, a gray Hyundai, that contained somebody that was possibly Mr. Chemirmir.
And did you keep an eye out for that same car then coming your direction?
I did.
And did you spot that car?
It drove directly in front of me from west to east.
And then did it park initially in 67?
No, it bypassed 67 and continued east.
And then you hand that off to Detective Knight because he's down there. Were you aware of Detective Knight? Was he reporting back what he was observing down there at that end? And at some point in time, does that car come back to spot 67?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And at that point in time, you all think you have a good ID on Mr. Chemirmir?
Yes, sir.
So what do you do at that time?
At that point, I go and give the signal to go arrest him. I exit my vehicle, and I go on foot with other detectives pulling up in their vehicles, and I approached the open driver's side door and observed that it was Mr. Chemirmir.
And how are you, I know that on your surveillance you'd be in civilian type clothes.
Yes, sir.
When you're approaching, do you have insignia though that you're with the police?
I have a vest with a large patch that says police clearly across my chest.
And is your gun drawn?
Yes.
And are you loudly informing everybody of who you are?
I informed him that I was the police and told him he was under arrest, told him to get out of the vehicle.
Did he get out of the vehicle?
Not initially, no.
All right. So what did you have to do there?
After telling him multiple times, I then just grabbed him and extracted him from the vehicle.
Did he have anything in his hands?
In his left hand, he had a clear bag with what appeared to be some jewelry, and then an envelope that was open, and it was full of a large amount of currency.
Okay. And so that's in his hands. The other hand, where's his other hand?
I can't, it was up around the steering wheel, I can't really remember that. I was focusing on the stuff that I saw.
Eventually, do you get him out and put him down on the ground?
Yes, sir.
And then, permission to approach.
Okay.
Show you states exhibit number 68 and 69. Is that how much, or do you recognize that?
Yes, that was Mr. Chemirmir, that's what he was wearing when we effected the arrest.
States exhibits numbers 70, is that the car?
That is the vehicle, yes, sir.
And then 70, there's some items on the trunk of the car. Is 71, is that a close above the items that were?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Law for States Exhibits 68, 69, 70, and 71.
State's Exhibit 68 or 71 will be admitted.
Hey, Roger. Thank you. State's Exhibit number 68. Is that how Mr. Chemirmir appeared on that day?
Yes, sir.
69, is that just another view of him from the side?
Yes, sir.
Looking back. State's Exhibit number 70. Is this the vehicle that you saw pass by you the first time?
Yes, sir.
And then Detective Knight, did he call out that Tennessee license plate to you?
Yes, I believe it was Detective Knight that did that.
And then is that in that spot 67 that we're talking about?
That's parked in, appears to be 67.
And then you, and that's where you took him out of that vehicle?
From the driver's side door, yes, sir.
And there's two cars on either side. Were those cars there as well at that point in time, or is this later? They were there.
Yes, they were there.
State's Exhibit number 71. You said that there was items in Mr. Chemirmir's hands. Are these items, some of the items that were in his hands at the time that he was being pulled out of that car?
Yes, the jewelry, the bag, the clear bag of jewelry, and then it was a white envelope with a lot of cash in it.
Okay. And then looks like this might be, there's a phone there and then maybe all on inside a hat.
Yes, sir. I believe he was wearing a hat when I contacted him. It probably came off upon extracting him from the vehicle.
Okay, very good. I'll pass witness.
Okay?
Detective Claggett, did y'all come from the front of the car or the back of the car?
Back of the car.
Back of the car?
Back of it.
Was the door open when y'all?
The driver's side door was open, yes.
But obviously it looks like there's about maybe 2.5 feet between the two cars. I put that.
That would be it.
Right here? Maybe 3 feet?
Roughly.
Okay, so I mean, there weren't very many people up there, right?
On that side, no, it was just myself and Sergeant Hughes.
And this side, looks like somebody parked really close to the line there, so that might have been, what, 12 inches?
I don't know if it'd be that small.
18 inches?
Possible.
Okay, so there weren't very many people up here either, right?
Detective Knight,
Okay, well, I believe somebody was over there, but there was a guy here, and how many people over here?
2.
And you know the way a car is designed, you look forward, right? So whenever people approach from behind in plain clothes and started yelling, it might startle most anybody.
Sure. Yes, I agree.
And the only time someone would have a view of people coming up behind him if he actually physically poked his head out the door and looked.
When I approached it, I first spoke to him when I was standing in his doorway.
Okay. Did you just show up, or did you like let him know you were coming up there?
Oh, I stand there, I said, police, and I surprised him.
Okay.
I definitely scared him.
So he opens the door, and all of a sudden there's somebody standing there in plain clothes,
Yeah.
yelling at him to get out of the car.
Well, but clearly marked up in the police markings, yes.
Okay, I believe you. I'm not saying he didn't have it on, but I mean, you're 2 feet from him. I mean, it's a little overwhelming if something like that was to happen.
Okay.
You agree?
You can make sure. Yeah.
And you told him to get out of the car several times, but what was it? How many seconds elapsed from the time you announced yourself to the time he was on the ground?
5 or 6 minutes,
Seconds?
possibly.
Okay, I mean, it all happens pretty fast.
Yes.
But he didn't try to shut the door on you or
No, sir.
anything like that. He would just start. Right?
Yes, sir.
When you got him out of the car and yell at you or call you names or try to kick you or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. So he was pretty compliant once he figured out what was going on.
Once we got on the car, yes.
What was that lottery ticket? Was that in his hand as well, or do you know?
I don't recall.
Did you see what I was talking about in that picture?
I'll put it back up there. It's exhibit, I think that's the 71.
I don't recall seeing that initially when I first contacted him.
Okay. You see it now?
I do see, if that's what you're talking about, right there with the upside down 20 on it.
I mean, that looks like a lottery ticket to me. What do you think?
Okay. I don't know. I don't buy lottery tickets.
I don't either, because I never win. But I mean, I've seen it before, right? You don't know where it came from or how that got in that property in that house?
I don't, what I'm saying is, I didn't do the complete search once I extracted him from the vehicle, got him on the ground, got him in cuffs. So I don't think I took all those items off.
Okay, fair enough. That answers that. Thank you so much. No further questions.
Any further questions?
No.
Okay, may this witness be released?
Yes, sir.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down and you're released. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to take a quick break. It looks like we've been going for about an hour and a half, and as I told y'all earlier, I want us to go a little late today, so that, we can make sure and finish in this time period that we told y'all we would do. So, it is now 5:34, 5:35. If you would come back to the jury room, I'll give you about this time, let's just take a 10-minute stretch break, just to kind of stretch your legs. If you come back by 5:45, I'm so sorry. If you come back by 5:45, we'll get started when y'all ready.
All right.
more witnesses, and then we'll be done for today. Mr. Fitzmartin, will you call your next witness?
This is, we'll call Detective Garcia.
Will you please raise your right hand for me? Do you so solemnly swear affirm to the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, you may have a seat. You may proceed, Mr. Fitzmartin.
Thank you, Judge. Can you please state your name and spell your last name?
Yes, sir. It's Fred Garcia, last name Garcia.
And how are you employed?
Currently, I am assigned as a technical officer assigned to the technical services unit of the Plano Police Department.
Okay, what is that? What do you do? Is that?
Basically a tech boy.
Okay. I'm going to direct your attention back to March 20th of 2018. Were you working as a detective for the Plano Police Department at that time?
Yes, sir, I was.
And did you have an occasion to participate in the arrest of Billy Chemirmir?
I did, yes, sir.
And we've heard from Detective Johnson, we've heard from Detective Knight, from Detective Claggett. You're part of that whole team that worked on securing him that day.
Yes, sir, I was.
We heard that some of these other detectives got him out of the car. Did you show up to that spot 67 at the arrest of Mr. Chemirmir?
Yes, sir, shortly after he was detained.
And did you notice that there was items out there, well, before that day, earlier that day, did you have an occasion to look into the Nissan Altima?
Yes, sir, I did.
And what did you do in regards to Nissan Altima?
I was asked by Detective Johnson, I believe, to run down to the impound lot here in Dallas to take a look at this vehicle because it was a vehicle of interest that we suspected Mr. Chemirmir had been driving.
And was that the 2008 Nissan Altima?
Yes, sir.
We've already seen some pictures of that. Permission to approach?
Excuse me.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit number 72. Is that how that car looked to you that day when you went down to look at it?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir, I did.
We'll offer State's Exhibit number 72.
No objection.
All right, State's Exhibit number 72, isn't it?
So there was some significant damage to that Nissan Altima.
Yes, sir.
And did you then have an occasion to go and help with the surveillance at Pear Ridge?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you do something with a video camera?
Yes, sir. I deployed a covert camera near his breezeway so that we could see the comings and goings from that apartment that we were particularly looking for.
And did you ever notice anything on that camera of interest to us here today?
No, sir. Nothing of interest.
So you hear about the arrest of Mr. Chemirmir, and you go to that location, and are there items loose in that area that needed to be kind of contained?
Yes, sir, there were.
So here on State's Exhibit number 70, we can see on the trunk of that Sonata that there's items loose there. State's Exhibit number 71 is kind of a close-up of some of those items.
Yes,
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
What did you and the other detectives there, what did y'all do with those items?
Put those items into a plastic bag, a Walmart bag, kind of held them so that they would all be secured together. Immediately after doing that, I went and helped search the dumpster where Detective Knight had heard some banging and what have you before the arrest itself.
And did you find other items of interest at the dumpster?
Yes, we did.
And did you collect up all of those items so that you could give them over to other detectives later on in the day?
Yes, sir, I did.
Commissioner approach.
You may.
I first want to deal with the items that were there on Mr. Chemirmir's person before we get to the dumpster. Okay, so I'm going to show you State's Exhibits 73. through 130. You take a look at those photos. I think you've seen them before. But Scott, those are all items taken from Mr. Chemirmir. You may not have 122 up there. That's already in evidence. Okay. Are these all pictures from the arrest and the items that were found out there at that time?
Yes, sir. They are.
We'll offer State's Exhibits 73 through 130, 122 already being in evidence.
Detective Garcia on board out of this?
You may.
Detective Garcia, in these photos that Mr. Martin provided to you, did you, especially regarding the jewelry, did you actually collect and view this jewelry that was collected out there at the scene on that day?
I helped collect it, and I did view it before putting it into the bag, yes, sir.
Okay, so you do recognize it from that day?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, that's all, no objections.
All right, so State's Exhibits 73 through 130 will be admitted, and Exhibit 122, which is the red box, the dumpster, has already been admitted.
I'll also show you State's Exhibits 326 through 332. Have you looked at these already?
Yes, sir, I have.
And these also photographs of that red jewelry box that you retrieved out there that day.
Yes, sir.
We'll offer State's Exhibits. We'll offer State's Exhibits 326 through 332.
No objection, John.
326 through what?
332.
332. 326. 332. All right. State's Exhibits 326 through 332 will be continued.
All right, first of all, that's a picture, State's number 69 has already been in evidence. That's Mr. Chemirmir from that day.
Yes, sir.
You see him in the courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
You need, point of him to describe an article of clothing.
Gentleman very near the table with a black suit, black and white tie.
Let the record reflect the witness as identified the defendant in open court.
The record will so reflect.
Okay, and so we've established there's items on him and items that were on his person or in his hand when he was arrested. Is that right? This is number 73. Is this a photo of a Kenyan passport?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Did y'all learn that Mr. Chemirmir was from Kenya?
Yes.
States number 74, the visa, part of that passport.
That's correct.
States number 75, another piece of identification of Mr. Chemirmir.
Yes, sir.
Station number 76, is this insurance for this that was found inside of this car with Tom Unding's name on it?
That's correct.
Anthony Unding.
Yes, sir.
And Tom Unding. State's Exhibit number 77. Y'all find some keys inside?
Yes, sir, I did.
State's Exhibit number 78. Is this the back seat of the that Sonata?
That's correct, yes, sir.
And you see a hammer in the back seat there?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit number 79. Is that same hammer close up?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit number 80. Is that the cup holder with those keys?
That's correct.
81 is at the back seat.
It's a plastic bag with just some bottles of wine in it, and I believe the brown one had some food in it.
Takeout food?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit number 82. You said that the items that were in the back of the Sonata you put inside a Walmart bag?
Yes, sir.
And is this a picture of that Walmart bag?
Yes, sir.
And then State's Exhibit number 83. Is this open the Walmart bag? Look inside the items.
Yes.
84
Just another picture of items contained.
from the Walmart bag now spread out.
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit number 85. Did y'all find a phone out there?
Yes, sir.
State's Exhibit number 86. Looks like there's a message from a Margaret on that phone.
Yes, sir.
87 is at the back side of that phone.
Correct.
saw a hat in that picture, Station number 88, is that hat that was on Mr. Chemirmir or associated with Mr. Chemirmir?
Absolutely, yes.
89,
Money envelope with some notes on
okay. The other side of that same envelope, 690.
it. Yes, sir.
Exhibit 91. The inside of that with a bunch of money inside. Is that
Yes.
right? That envelope. This is number 92. Like they've taken the money out and spread it out.
Yes, sir.
And the tens, 20s, a couple hundreds, and some ones. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
693. What are we looking at here?
A lot of $2 bills.
A lot of $2 bills. You have these $2 bills on him at the time?
Yes, sir.
All right, and so we go through a series of photos here. That's them all laid out. If we go through, I'm just going to show you station number 94. These are all different rows of that of the 94.
Yes, sir.
95.
Yes, sir.
96.
Yes, sir.
97.
Yes, sir.
98.
Yes, sir.
99.
Yes, sir.
100.
Yes, sir.
1.
Yes, sir.
2.
Yes, sir.
3.
Yes, sir.
4.
Yes, sir.
5.
Yes, sir.
And 106.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, the individualized items that were in there. State's exhibit number 107 does it look like some sort of a peacock design jewelry?
Yes, sir, it does.
108, other items that were in his hand?
Correct. Yes, sir.
109, a ring with a, looks like a diamond maybe on it. 110, that same ring with the
Yes, sir.
stone. 111, one of the bracelets, like maybe a, I don't know if that's a fox or a lizard, some sort of design maybe.
Yes, sir.
112,
A jade looking necklace.
This, what is this?
Just a small velvet black bag that contained a lot of jewelry found on him.
When you pour that out, is this what we see? It was inside that?
Yes.
Some of those individual items, those are 115, kind of a snowflake looking ring.
Yes, sir.
116.
Yes, sir. More or less the same.
And 117 is that a close up, kind of an emerald looking ring.
Yes, sir.
118. Some other rings and necklaces, things like that.
Yes, sir.
119.
Another bracelet.
Bracelet. 120.
Matching necklace, I believe.
120.
It's a gold chain with the letters KIM on it.
So KIM as in Kim, the name Kim.
Yes.
All right, let me move over into the dumpster area. Show you what. Marks. This is number 122. Is that that dumpster that Detective Knight had testified about in the red box that's in there?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
And who took that red box out of the dumpster?
Detective Carlos Harwell and myself.
They also find some drawers to that box inside the dumpster.
Yes, sir.
And as that we've seen in State Exhibit 123. Taking the box out, State Exhibit 124. It's just on the grassy area there by the dumpster.
Yes, sir.
Some of the items that were inside the box.
That is correct.
This is number 125. Is that a close-up?
Yes, sir.
Of the box. Was there some damage to that box?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Are we looking at some of the damage to that box with the clasping agent?
That's correct. It appeared to have been forced open.
And the right-hand door seems to be barely hanging on.
It's hanging on for dear life, yes, sir.
State Exhibit 127. Is that you holding that box?
Yes, sir, it is.
And Detective Knight taking the pictures?
Yes, sir.
And there again, we see the damage to that door, but we see the contents of at least one of the drawers was inside that.
That's correct.
And those appear to be jewelry boxes to you?
Yes, sir.
And are they empty?
Absolutely.
Stacey number 128. What are we looking at here?
So that's the same jewelry box, but that's the compartment with the flip up top, the very top of it. Box that would just flip up and then you have a little storage compartment.
And some of the items contain inside that jewelry box?
Yes, sir.
You see there's a piece of paper here and then a pink card down below?
Yes, sir.
That's exhibit number 129. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
You see that appears to be an affidavit of a William Richard Harris talking about his wife.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, from the wife of William Richard Harris. And with the name Lou T. Bang.
Yes, sir.
And then another card, Stacey number 130, a photo of another card in there with the name Lou T. Bang.
That is correct.
Some other photos of that box. This is number 326. There again showing the is that some of the other items that were in behind the drawers?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Now, what did you do with that box when you collected it?
After going through it and showing Detective Hart some of the paperwork that we found in there, I thought best to put it inside another container to be able to keep it all together and not just, able to kind of get loose inside of my vehicle as I was storing it there until the Detective Mary Jones showed up later.
So did you put it in? Good. Did you find a box somewhere there on site, somewhere in the dumpster or somewhere?
Yeah, yes, sir. Took a big cardboard box out of the dumpster since I didn't have anything big enough to put the box into. And that's where I placed the jewelry box and all its contents into.
And Stacey, on 327, is this that cardboard box and the red box that's put inside,
That is correct. Yes, sir.
along with the other Walmart bag. And the passport.
That is correct.
This is a close-up of that station number 328, that same red box inside the cardboard box.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Now, if we look closely here, you can tell that left-hand door that was barely hanging on is now off.
That is correct.
How did that come off?
We were handling the box, trying to figure out opening the drawers, opening all the different compartments, reading whatever paperwork we could find in it, and just by going through the box, just handling it, the door just fell off.
And